pivot or persevere? So you found yourself in a fucked up situation in life where you're like, holy shit, this is a bit much. This is too much. This is stupid. Or you found yourself stuck on a project, or you found yourself stuck with some portion of your life. Something's not working. You're not getting the results you want. Something isn't going right. The question then is, do you pivot or do you persevere? And this is a very, very good thing to ask yourself, because sometimes it just doesn't even enter our minds that we should pivot, that we should reassess our situation and take a step back, take a 30,000 foot bird's eye view on the whole situation and to see what's going on. There's going to be many times in your life where you're going to have to reassess, and you're going to have to take a look at the variables you have, and you're going to have to ask yourself, am I going to pivot or am I going to persevere? So if you pivot, you're going to go on a new path. You're going to say, fuck this, and do something else. You're going to realize this is not really working out. This ain't working out. Or like, nah, this isn't for me. Or, I thought it was something, this was good, but in practice, in reality, it's actual garbage. So I'm going to pivot, or you're going to persevere. And you're going to be like, you know what? Maybe it didn't turn out how I first imagined it, but I know I'm going to learn something if I just go through it. I know I'm going to be just a little bit more wiser after it's done. I'm going to learn something I need to learn. I'm going to extract as much as I can from here. I'm not just going to quit. It seems like I can learn more and I can gain more if I just persevere. So what is that for you? What's the situation that you're in right now? We're asking this question is going to help. And you know what? It doesn't even need to be necessarily a dire situation. It could just be reassessing what you're doing with a project, or even the direction that you are taking your project in. A lot of times we could be working on a huge project and we can be imagining all of these possibilities that in all the ways it could be imagined, all the ways that it could go. And then we realize, like, no, we got to pivot the direction of this. You can find that as well. I remember, I didn't really necessarily pivot but I can remember. Well, how about this? I'll give you a real example where I remember I need to pivot or persevere. I was at home. I was still living at home with my parents at the time. And I remember when I was kind of finding myself in a rut. And I just couldn't, get myself to motivate and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, should I just persevere with what I'm doing, or should I try to pivot something altogether? And just switch it up, change my environment, whatever. And I remember that helping a lot. And so anytime, I want you to remember this saying of pivot and persevere. Anytime something is just not working out, something that's just not right, I want you to remember this and keep this in your tool belt, such that when the time comes, you can ask yourself this question. There's going to be a lot of moments in life, that persevering through something is going to be very beneficial, because you're going to learn something. A lot of times when you have to choose to persevere, you're choosing to create strength that you didn't even know you had. And that's usually what happens when we grow, is that we have to choose to be better before we even know we even have the ability to be better. And a lot of times when we have to pivot with something, that's saying yes to yourself as well. That's setting a boundary. A lot of times pivoting could just mean setting that boundary. And that can be very difficult, especially when your survival situation is on the line, and setting that boundary means switching up your job and changing where you get your income from. That can be very tough. And that's where having integrity with your values is, up to challenge now. Because it's like, not only, having integrity with who you want to be isn't going to be as cut and dry as just being able to uphold some values and that's it. Like, you got to put your ass on the line here a lot of these times. When it comes to true integrity, that's when it counts. And if it's like pivoting out of self-respect because you found yourself in a job where the work conditions are shit, you're treated like shit, you're paid like shit, but you can't find yourself another job, at least right now, right? To even make that choice to because you can find another job and it might not be, it's going to be different, it'll have different problems, different challenges. To even make that choice to pivot, like say quitting a job and switching, well, then you're going to have to go through the whole rigmarole of getting acclimatized to a new job, finding a new job, actually getting hired, stuff like that. This is where, that's just one example. This is where the whole idea of having a vision for your life is critical. Because if you didn't have a big picture explanation for your, a big picture plan, a vision for your life, then these questions of, should I pivot or persevere, become very difficult to answer, because you don't have an overarching narrative, an overarching direction upon where you think you should go. So that's where having a vision, a life purpose, comes into play. So next time you are unsure about even pivoting or persevering, and you're finding yourself in a shitty situation, you have to ask yourself that question. Go back to your vision. And if you don't have one, start to cultivate one right there. Even just listening to your conscience of what your conscience is telling you, what your self-respect is. But this is why I highly recommend that everyone should have a life purpose, even just like a rough idea. Because then decisions like these will become crystal clear. Let's just say, right now, in my life, if I didn't have my long-term vision of what I wanted to do with my life, I would not have persevered what I'm going through right now. I would have easily pivoted. And whether or not that's for the better or worse doesn't necessarily matter, because I know that when I persevere through what I'm going through, I feel in my heart that I'm going to be better for it. So then, even if I did make the wrong decision, I at least can forgive myself because I don't regret anything. A lot of times we will regret staying too long in a bad place. We will regret, and sometimes we will regret pivoting too soon, too quickly, jumping out too quickly. And so, no one can tell you this. No one can tell you what you have to, what decision you have to make. That's something that you're going to have to figure out on your own. That's where the wisdom comes in. So, with that, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.